The presenting sponsor of Moon Tower Soccer is FVF Law.
To find out what makes FVF a different kind of injury law firm, you can visit fvf.law. Hello, friends, and thanks for listening to Moon Tower Soccer. This week, we're going to review Austin's 2-0 loss to Colorado. We're going to preview the matches versus LAFC and Minnesota United, and we're going to cover some other Austin FC news. And I feel like I managed to get that whole sentence out, like, without having to re-record it. Hey, everybody.
Who are you?
I'm Jeremiah Bentley, and I'm joined by
Mike Craniola.
Yeah. So
It's
Mike
me.
and I, again, landed off, still in Switzerland. Mike and I are going to hold this down again. Mike was trying to, I think, just make this like a soccer beer and USL 2 show, given how the game went on Saturday.
Well, I knew y'all are coming up on a birthday, right?
Yeah, so today is the 4th birthday of the first episode of the Capital City Soccer Show. So like when Landon and I officially started our own thing, it was on June 17th, 2000 is when that first episode came out. And I don't remember the content of it. I think it was one of these, rumored connections to some guy from Mexico who was never really ever going to be an option for Austin. And then we interviewed Caitlin Swartz, who at the time was like brand new to being on the community team, now runs the 4ATX Foundation. It seemed like a friend of ours we could call on to like do an interview and be okay, knowing that probably nobody was going to listen. I did not go back and listen to that show. I imagine it was probably pretty bad. But yes, it's like 250. In the feed, there are 250 plus shows that have been released since then, counting both Moon Towers and Swoon Towers.
Yeah, and that's crazy. Not real. I guess I had assumed y'all had been around so much longer, right? Swoon Tower being in its now second full season. I had not realized that we had joined up so early in y'all's run. That's so exciting.
It is.
And in honor of that, we should go back to when we didn't talk about sports because, oh boy, this Colorado match, Jeremiah. What if we talked about city council meetings? We talked about some zoning permits. We could talk about craft beer in the area. We could talk about any of the things that y'all used to talk about before there was a team. How's that sound?
Before there was a team? That's great. Now, the reason I know that there are 250 plus episodes of the show is because I was doing some research for Soccer Trivia Night at Turnstile, which I realized last week when I promoted it, did not name the location. So it's kind of important when you want people to show up, for a thing. So next Wednesday night at Turnstile Brewing, come do trivia, which is going to be some soccer trivia, some like Austin culture movie stuff, some other things. Sign up start at 6. I was working on questions with Alyssa from the Austin Co-ed Soccer Association today. Like, she's way smarter and funnier than I am, so she did a really good job of making the questions better. So come on out and have a good time.
Yeah, I am super, super glad that we've partnered with Alyssa and with AXA, with Turnstile. Everything about it is going to be such a cool, fun event. And if you don't have anything going on Wednesday the 26th, you should absolutely be there. If you do have something going on, you should cancel that something and show up to this instead. It's going to be so fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a great time. So, you ready to go?
We have
to
talk
go to the
about
story of the
what
week?
wasn't a great time?
Yeah, let's get. So I think I kind of written a few points into the story of the week, but I want you to talk about I think these are all wrapped up in like bizarro Mike, like what kind of Mike you usually are. The Mike that you usually are is very positive. The Mike that you usually are doesn't like yell at people to shoot. The Mike you usually are doesn't like blame the refs for weird situations. So talk about Colorado, Mike.
Yeah, so I blame this entirely on our misfortune, quite honestly, in the Craniola household. I think it's our fault, and I'm sorry to everyone in the Austin FC universe, because Steph and I were supposed to go to this match, and due to aforementioned kidney stone issues, stayed home. And the things that I never try to do are I try to never blame a loss on the refs, because I don't feel like that's productive. They're trying, like the ref is trying to do a good job, and like, it's not like they can win by being bad, the ref wins every single time. They're like the house. And so I try not to blame the refs for outcomes. And I also try not to be the guy that yells shoot all the time. But it's really hard not to be that guy when you've got the ball in the box and just decide not to shoot at an open goal. Jeremiah, this was a really hard one for me because also the ref missed a handball on Colorado's second goal, and then the ref did not call the handball on Driussi's shot. Yeah. I'm getting frustrated just talking about it.
So the handball, I don't know which handball you want to talk about first. I guess we could talk about the second goal first.
Yeah, I think it's the most egregious. I think the first handball call is the one that makes me the most mad when it happens to us, because by the letter of the law, that's how they've been calling it all season, right? Touches the hand at all, and then a goal happens, it gets called back. And that's how it's been happening all season. I think it's a weak handball call every single time. And this time, I also thought it would have been a weak handball call. But if you're doing it every time, the consistency would have been nice. But the second one, I think, is the real criminal offense.
The second one was, it seems to meet like the clinical definition of, to your point earlier, like, okay, this is an interpretation. It's like exactly how the rule's written. But like the second one on the Driussi shot, like that seemed really clearly a handball.
Ball. Yeah.
And the hand was like sticking out sideways, outside of his body.
Yeah. He looked like a basketball defender. And then he defended the ball like a basketball defender. It was okay though. And what I think is especially funny is there's a developing villain arc for Lalas Abubakar with Austin FC fans. And this just adds fuel to that fire, right? Now the narrative is even more extreme. And I, as a big time wrestling fan, I love a heel. And so like the idea that Lalas Abubakar is sitting back home, like trying to figure out more ways to make Austin fans angry makes me so excited for the next time we play Colorado.
Yeah, one of the other things in the post-game press conference, when Josh was asked about it, Wolff's like, whoa, just like things happen against Colorado. I had not really noticed that, but he seems to really think it's a thing. Like, what did you think about that comment?
I mean, he's not wrong. And it's the most like human response, I think, to refereeing calls that we've seen out of Josh so far, right? Normally, hey, the refs are the refs. They've got a job to do, right? Like that is the whole conversation. But yeah, it seemed like he was willing to engage in the conversation around like, it seems like something's going on. And so, as conflicted as I am about general post-match pressers from the head coach, I thought that was like, oh, he's on my side for this, which I don't normally get out of those, right?
I like that you said it was like basically his most human interaction is if like it's on a scale and he's sort of like, down the low, soccer robot end of it. So it's like the closest thing to, he's in the uncanny valley when it comes to being a coach.
He correctly identified every picture with a bicycle in it. Like it was right there.
Yeah. So
what about you, shots. Jeremiah? How was your, what was your take on the handball that wasn't?
I was at Noah Khan on Saturday night and did not see this game live.
Oh, you're
which
so
meant
lucky.
Which meant that I had to like go back and rewatch it on Sunday, knowing exactly how it was going to turn out. Which is not great, but I did see like several different versions of that clip, and it just seems so obvious, like so clear and obvious. And I don't remember exactly what the
thought,
explanation was, but it was like very insufficient.
Yeah, natural and normal position of the hand or whatever. Like, I thought it was telling that both handballs were called by the like announcers during the match as like, oh, that's a handball. That'll. Oh, nope, never mind. Like, that's when you know, I think, that you're not crazy. So one thing I did want to ask you about is you've got a note here that says 1 shot on goal in 2 matches. Go on.
That is my note. Well, because I believe, according to FOTMob, like there was 1 shot on goal against San Jose and 0 shots on goal in this Colorado match. And I don't know, don't remember how we are with the edits, but it makes me think if there's a clip from Major League, which is the movie I quote the most on this podcast.
Yeah.
Where Bob Uecker's character is like, 1 hit? All we got was 1 goddamn hit? And I feel like that about shots on goal over 2 matches, that Austin is, just so woefully unable, or I guess unwilling more than anything, to take shots. There's this quote in the post game from Coach Wolff about just expressing this, what did he call it? Is that what he called? Bizarre? Perplexing. There you go.
Yeah.
Something was bizarre this week and something was perplexing. Yes, it was perplexing that I think he specifically called out Obrian and Rubio about not taking shots. So that was very frustrating.
I mean, I love Jader Obrian. And when that goal is wide open and you are the only man in the box, like, dog, you got to rip one. You got to take it. I will say, in Austin's defense, were it not for an errant arm, Driussi would have had a shot on goal.
That's true. Yes.
So we could have been up to 2 shots on goal in 2 matches.
Still not great.
I do want to hear what you have to say about the energy in Colorado, though.
The energy of the team, or the energy all the way around? Oh, I mean, it looked like a team that is. What I'm worried about is this a team that's going to go, that's going to be in the 3 games in 8 days stretch of things, and they look like a team that was coming off having played 3 games in 8 days, and not a team that had 2 weeks off. So that's, I mean, they were slow. I don't remember if there was like the ESPN article that had where Austin sort of was in the power rankings and talked about them being like slow, unproductive, and something else, and it just felt very much ponderous. Yeah. There you go, in attack. That seemed very much like the way they played. And I mean, that is concerning. And you're missing Danny and you're missing Julio, but like that's not enough to like make up for the way they played. And probably the most concerning, like long term, is like the regression of Diego Rubio in a game that it seemed like he might be up for, because this is the next squad and a place he had success and somebody cut him loose, and he's continued a pretty poor run of form in a spot where Austin does not have other solutions.
Yeah, I thought for sure going into this match that this would be a Diego Rubio like golazo fest. I thought if there was a guy on the team that was going to be up for this Colorado match, it would be him, and that was not what we saw. I don't know what's going on.
What's your take on that?
Yeah. My take on this is Diego Rubio is at the perfect salary and the perfect age to be a backup striker. And the Austin FC striker core has traditionally been at the perfect age, and maybe not the perfect salary, but the perfect age and the perfect production to be backup strikers. I would love for us one day to have a real starting striker, Jeremiah.
Is that too much to ask? It doesn't seem like it. I don't know if you've been checking your email, but like Phil actually published an article on this very topic as we started to record. Just now. Yeah, called Single Digit Squad, the ongoing quest for an Austin FC striker to reach the 10-goal mark. So if you're not a Verde All Day subscriber, check that out. It's a rather depressing piece.
Yeah, it sounds it. It sounds like exactly where my head is at. So great job, Phil. And as always, glad to be subscribed, I guess. No, honestly, always glad to be subscribed. But yeah, there is a desperate yearning in my soul for a striker who scores goals.
Which seems like it shouldn't be too much to ask for a team.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why it looked like the team was so tired, but they looked a step behind. And then even in the post game, Leo Väisänen called out that they were. He said straight up that they were too slow in every challenge and behind on every ball. And that was exactly how I felt the game played out as well. So,
yeah, super frank, right? I think he said like they deserved to lose, basically. Like the result we got was the result we deserve, which you don't hear a ton, but it's very accurate.
And the most frustrating thing is we could have MLS'd ourselves into a draw if the handball calls had gone the right way, and then we would have been talking about how great it was to steal points.
Steal a point away.
Yeah. Like, yeah, it was a terrible game, and there's a lot of underlying problems, but a point on the road is a point on the road, is what we could have said. And instead...
but here we are.
Here we are.
All right, let's take a break, sort ourselves out, and get back to talking some more about this match, and then we'll talk about what's ahead.
Perfect. Moon Tower Soccer is brought to you by our friends at FVF Law, the official injury lawyers of Austin FC.
FVF is a different kind of personal injury law firm dedicated to community, transparency, and client education, and they have their own podcast called Summary Judgment. Check it out wherever you get your podcasts.
You can go to fbf.law to find out what makes FVF a different kind of injury law firm and why understanding your legal options can dramatically change the outcome of a case. Once again, that is fbf.law. Amplify Credit Union is a member-owned financial cooperative that served the needs of Central Texans for over 5 decades. As a credit union, Amplify has no shareholders or parent companies. That means more of your money stays in the community.
Amplify has been the home of fee-free banking since 2022. Their free checking accounts come with 0 overdraft fees or minimum balances. That means Amplify's fee-free checking accounts help you get more mileage from your everyday spending.
Amplify membership is open to any Texas resident. Learn to trust your bank again at Amplify Credit Union. To learn more and to register for free parking at the Amplify Esperanza branch on game day, go to www.goamplify.com/moontower-soccer. All right.
Take this.
Yeah, so let's get back into it. Let's talk about the Colorado Rapids match in a little bit more depth here. Austin loses away 2-0 in Commerce City. This is the club's 3rd straight defeat, and we now sit 8th in the West. And Jeremiah, there's not a lot of time to ruminate on this one.
No, not at all. It was unlike when we talked to Brad on last week and said, well, gosh, it must be hard to have a loss like the loss that Austin had versus RSL and like not be able to get right back out there and prove yourself. And no, there's no time to reflect on it. It's time to get back out there and prove yourself right away. So, going into this one, we knew, we touched on this earlier, we knew Julio and Danny were going to be on international duty. The upside of that was that Driussi, Finley, and Gallagher all appeared healthy. So in the net, in a little better shape than Austin could have been, than we probably even talked about last week.
Yeah, another piece of news is that we saw Alonso Ramirez was called up on a short-term loan agreement from Austin FC 2. And, that was pretty exciting because we had been told in the past from Josh Wolff that players aren't just going to be called up to like fill a roster spot on the bench, right? They're going to be called up because they've earned that spot. And so whatever he's been doing in training must have been good enough for the coach to give him the call up. So that was fun.
Well, so, and as an Austin FC2 guy, or at least enough to have recorded a whole episode on them last year, like, I mean, what were you excited to see that? And were you surprised to see that? Because he's a team captain. He's probably the most accomplished player, excluding CJ.
He reminds me a lot this year of like this year's version of Joe Hafferty, where he's a responsible guy who is pretty much kind of where he is and who he is. He's a little bit older than the rest of the team, so he's looked to for leadership in that respect, and then additionally kind of is at a maturity level where he understands the role and the responsibilities wherever he's plugged in on the field. We've seen him playing some center back this year. We've seen him marshaling that 6 spot with the second team. And so to see him get the call up, I think if I were being cynical about it, right, would to me say that method of like preparation that Alonso has is the thing that the other second teamers should be aspiring to, right? He came in from the off season, putting on a bunch of muscle like CJ had, really like fitness leveled up over the off season. And so I think a lot of this is kind of rewarding that hard work. And so while he might not have the ceiling of a Micah Burton or an Irving Torres or, you know, some of the other younger guys, he's put in a lot of that work and has raised his floor significantly enough that he can be a safe bench bet for the first team. And so we end up seeing that later in the match, right, when he actually gets his first minutes, but we'll talk about that in a little bit here.
Yeah, no, I mean, those are the kind of guys you need. I mean, you need these guys that can just be solid, like hardworking contributors. And I think it's something, maybe it's because of the how new Austin is as a team, but there's just been a real lack of those kind of guys that there's been people you bring it from elsewhere. You've got like poor old Hector, like having to eat minutes, and so it'll be nice to hopefully get to see more of those guys come through.
I think that's like when you look at these rosters from teams that do really well year over year, so many of their homegrowns and so many of their supplemental players come from their academy system and have this like next man up mentality, right? We talk about it in a little bit here with Keith Costigan, if that recording. We've talked in the past about the like impetus that competition gives you in roster builds, right? And so if you've got these kids who are coming up and hungry and competing for those minutes, that's just going to make the entire team better. And so hopefully this kind of is the start of a little bit of that for Austin as we sit in the middle of our 4th year and hope that some of these academy products start to pan out.
Yeah, and then we also got the quote from Coach Wolff, who called the scheduling bizarre, having 2 weeks off and then 3 games in 8 days. And I'd written a note about should we trash talk League Cup, which I feel like is always appropriate. He didn't mention that, but like that's what's creating these situations. That's what creates Austin being 2/3 of the season being over before Bukari and Desler come in. Like there's a lot of downside to this. Maybe the upside is that they'll get some time to acclimate with the team before starting the back end of the season, but not a huge fan.
Yeah, I think the 2 biggest crimes of Leagues Cup are where it falls during the season and that it's not home and away. And I think if you solve those 2 problems, I'm all in on Leagues Cup. I think if Austin is playing Mexican teams in Mexico, that is sick. If these games are happening at the actual midpoint of the season, so that we've got the first half of the season and the second half of the season, and all the new players are in and ready for that second half of the season, that's sick. Everything else needs some tweaking still. But generally, this might be a hot take. I like watching Liga MX teams play MLS teams. I think that's really fun. And so I am patient with the tournament, but in its current iteration, it's not what it needs to be for me.
Okay, I'll go for that. That's the most positive take. I mean, I also like watching it play too, and that's why I like CCL. But it's at the expense of the Open. I mean, ultimately, it all comes down to it's the expense of the U.S. Open Cup, which is the thing that frustrates everybody, right?
I mean, you can have both. You just have to pay the players more, and you have to expand the rosters, and then you can have both, and it's not a problem.
Totally, absolutely true. Well, lineup wise, let's get into this. This is I think probably exactly the 11 that we expected to see, given Julio and Danny being out. So it's Stuver at goal, Biru and Gallagher at fullback, Heinzek and Weissen at center back, Ring, Valencia, and Driussi in the midfield, Wolff, Rubio, Obrian. I mean, there's not. I don't. This
Zero
is the
surprise.
11.
Yeah, exactly.
Surprise.
This is our starting 11. Anytime Julio and Danny are not available, this is what it's going to look like for the next month of the season. At least this is what it's going to look like, for better and for worse. Assuming everyone can stay healthy. Oh my God, please. But no surprises to me. No, nothing really jumped out as a glaring problem, right? I would love to see a 6 who can pass the ball forward a little bit better, but we have who we have.
That's right. Everybody's a little bit incomplete, in different ways. And to your point, just to be super clear, So this is it until what, middle of July, probably.
Yeah. Whenever Costa Rica gets knocked out, Julio will come back in. Whenever Venezuela is knocked out, Danny will come back in. Until then, we are rolling with who we're rolling with.
Yeah.
And so, if that bothers you as an Austin FC fan, maybe take a Rip Van Winkle and wake up at Leagues Cup and watch the new guys get integrated. Otherwise,
I saw, what was this? I think it was on X today. I was reading this tweet, or whatever a tweet is now. It talked about so many people who have opinions on the Austin FC roster live in a world where there's no salary cap or roster restrictions or any of these other things. But in the reality of the 2024
transfer windows,
Major League Soccer, this is what we got. So I mean, we kind of talked about just how the general game flow and game state goes. So I don't think we need to belabor that a ton. We get the first goal at 22 from Cole Bassett, assisted by Omir Fernandez.
What a rocket.
I don't remember a lot about it, but that's what I remember about it.
This was the ball that ping-ponged around until it landed at the top of the box, and he just ripped it. It was one of those goals where you just, it bounced around, and here it is.
Yeah, it's nothing could be done about that one. Then we get the second one, which so we go to half 1-0. The second goal is the Rafael Navarro goal, unassisted, but also one I feel like we've talked about now. Do you have any additional commentary other than it was really also a handball and really probably also should not have counted?
Yeah, I think the handball in the build-up to the goal has been called a handball that negates the goal 9 times out of 10 this season, and this was the 1 out of 10 where it didn't. And so, it's a tough pill to swallow, but here we are.
Okay. Then we get the other handball, which we've also talked about. The only note I would make on that is that somebody mentioned that it was a missed opportunity to see if he'd land in reverse curse on Sebastian Driussi, and his ability to convert PKs was missed, and so maybe that was the biggest crime of that handball. I don't know if that's true, but
yeah, I think between the opportunity to see if Landon broke the curse, or if it hadn't touched his hand at all, a gorgeous Sebastian Driussi banger would have also been great. A goal in open play would have been amazing. That would have been, to me, even better than a penalty kick that Landon doesn't get blamed for. Personally, I would love to see an open play goal.
See an open play goal somewhere for Austin at some point. Yeah, man, there's not. I mean, Brad Stuver again had a. It's interesting to say with a game with 2 goals, but he had a great performance. He denies Cole Bassett in the second half on a great chance. He had a big save in the first half too. So, if not for Brad Stuver, things could have been worse. Feels like something that we say a lot, but I would definitely say that if not for Brad Stuver, things definitely could have been worse.
Again, he continues to earn the right to be called an all-star. Whether that happens for him or not, I guess we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I mean, this would have looked a lot worse if it wasn't him standing between the sticks. So other than Brad Stuver, Jeremiah, did anyone stand out to you in play?
In play? Oh, geez, man.
And this is better or worse at this point.
I mean, Gary Biru, again, was decent. And decent going forward, which is a weird thing to say about your fullback.
I mean, it seems like the way that we want to play, right? We're gonna put one fullback back home, and we're gonna put one up in the attack. And now it's Biru who gets to be the attacking one, and he does things that none of the other players on our team can. So, is it now that we should talk about Alex Ring?
Oh, we could. Yes, I'm open to talking about Alex Ring whenever. And I'm gonna guess this is not surprise you in a good way.
No, I am ready for the end of the Alex Ring era in Austin, I think.
Wow. Okay, share.
He's been an incredible servant to the club. His attitude is still fantastic. And we've talked a lot, Jeremiah, about the way that our midfield doesn't match up, right? We've got holes because all of our players do similar things but different, and none of them fill each other's deficiencies in the right way. And when I look at kind of where we are and the players that surround that midfield, right? We've got Driussi, and we've got Danny, and we've got Alex. Like, of those 3, I am least excited by the prospect of Alex. It just, like, Sebastian Driussi can be an MVP candidate. Danny Pereira is every game getting a little bit better at something. And Alex is so inconsistent this year with his performances, whether he's going to be incredible or if he's going to look like he did in Colorado, where he's trying too hard and it's not coming off, and it seems like he's on a different page from the rest of the team. It just feels like the square peg in the round hole,
Yeah, and we got some of that. Was that 2021 Alex Ring? Like, when Alex Ring gets frustrated, it like makes him even worse, right? Because he's, to your point, he's trying to do too much. I was also just looking today, like, he's played the second most minutes on the team.
Yeah,
which is not good for the team, I don't think. Like, I'm not ready to move on completely from Alex Ring, but I'm ready to have a reduced role for Alex Ring.
Sure.
On this club.
I do not want another reduced role DP. And so, like, I think
that's fair.
We had one of those and it was horrible. And so to, like, keep holding on to one feels less horrible, but still not great.
Well, no, that's a very good point. Luckily, we believe that only to be the case through the end of this season.
Fingers crossed.
Who knows? Possibly.
Who knows what surprises our former sporting director has left us.
Yeah. Let's see. Who else did we talk about? So we talked about O'Brien. We talked about Rubio. not shooting. We talked about Valencia not being able to pass. Honestly, yeah, there's just like I'm looking through the lineup right now and looking at every guy and kind of thinking about a deficiency in what they did. I guess Heinz Ike and Weissenen weren't terrible. Also not memorable.
Yeah. Yeah, the direct quote from Leo Weissenen here is, I think we were just, like I said, just too slow to react, and I don't think we fought enough. I don't think we ran enough. I think we were a step behind in every play. Yeah, we had some chances, but I don't think it was close enough to be a good performance to win today. I think we deserved to lose. And honestly, at that point, I don't know what else there is to say about it.
I think that covers it.
Should we take another break?
For sure. Let's take a break.
All right.
Moon Tower Soccer's premier sponsor is McGuire Woods Consulting, helping clients in the public affairs space from lobbying at the local, statewide, and federal levels to digital and communications campaigns across the country.
McGuire Woods Consulting has offices in 10 MLS cities, but only advertises on this podcast because we're still home of the two-time reigning Copa Tejas champions, which...
They can't take that away from us.
Can't take that away from us. Make sure to contact our friends at McGuire Woods Consulting at mwcllc.com for more information.
Moon Tower Soccer is brought to you by Sage Wilson Realty. This team is made up of Austin experts who are client-focused and have over 30 years of combined real estate experience. You know, the Cornelius, maybe look at sometimes too.
Yeah.
Maybe talk to Sage Wilson Realty about it. They're also giving away 2 tickets to an upcoming match. You can fill out the form in the show notes for your chance to win.
If you or someone you know are in need of Sage real estate advice in Austin, talk to our friends at Sage Wilson Realty. Be sure to check them out online at sagewilson.com. All right, Jeremiah, we are back. Do you want to talk about some Austin FC news?
Yeah, we didn't have a ton of news this week. We sort of touched on Austin waiting. I think the hope of Austin fans being waiting on Bukari and Desler to come in and waiting on July 18th.
6 days. 6 matches, rather.
Matches, yeah. So Josh got a little bit more specific on that. He says, you want to get your living situation set up, arrive when you can be comfortable in your settings. They can arrive here and work out. So he says that the plan is for them to get here in the latter part of June and get set up and then sort of get their paperwork sorted away and then be able to start working with the team. If that happens, I feel pretty good about that.
Honestly, that's like the best case scenario, right? Give them a month to regret moving to Texas in the middle of the summer.
Right.
So that by the time they get training, they're like, it's not so bad. It reminds me of Steph's first summer here. She moved here from Denver. And that first week of summer when it was 100 degrees every single day, she was like, what did I do? And then the next day, it was like 95 degrees. And she stepped outside and she goes, oh, it's nice today. And that's when she got in the car and realized it was 95. And she was like, oh, I'm broken. So that's what we need for these boys, is we need them to hit the ground, get that, 10 days of 100 degrees out of their system, and then wake up one day and be like, oh, it's nice out when it's 95.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
Because coming from Denmark and coming from Belgrade, these are not places that they have to normally play in this kind of temperature, right?
No, they will need some time. And it's I haven't looked at the stats. Originally there was this talk that, Austin has this, we're playing the Heat and therefore there'll be a competitive advantage for being in the Heat at home and being a ball controlling team. I don't think that's actually happened.
No, me neither.
I don't think anybody can really deal with this all that well, but yeah, it'll be good for them to take a little time. I guess makes you think about, remember how much Ruben Gabrielson hated the weather and was not afraid
so much
to talk
that he
about
moved.
It.
Yeah.
So
he said, I'm never playing in Houston again. And then he didn't.
Right.
So yeah, I'm just glad for them to get here. The sooner the better. Honestly, I think their being here, even not training with the team, should give an injection of competition spirit within the group, right? certainly within the attacking band and within the defense. So maybe the midfield just needs another star player to come in. Not asking too much.
Not asking too much to solve it all.
Yeah.
We got official notice. We've expected this, and we've talked about this, but Julio and Danny both officially got called up to their national team duty for Copa America. So not surprising. Good for those guys.
Great for them. There was a part of me that was like, well, maybe not this time. And it's totally selfish. As a fan, I'm allowed to feel that way sometimes, but I am glad for both of them also that they get to represent their countries. That's like the pinnacle of what you want to do as a professional player. So to get to do that is really great.
Yeah, super. It should be a good tournament, and they will both be playing in Austin during this.
Yeah,
during this tournament. So
yeah, are you going to go to either of those matches?
I'm planning on it. My neighbor's from Costa Rica, and he's super excited. I think I'm going to go with him.
That's great.
To one of those, and I think they're going to go. You're going in Houston too, because I think they play a couple games in the state of Texas, so he's going to check those out.
That's perfect. That's so fun.
What else?
Yeah. Did you see this tweet from Andrew Wiebe earlier this week about the path to 45 points?
The path to 45. I did. And what is the path to 45 points, Mike?
Yeah, so his theory is that 45 points should mark you safe to make the playoffs. And so the idea is, how many points are you at right now on the season? How many games have you played? How many games are remaining? And what are the points per game that you have to play at to make 45 points and get into the playoffs? He also buckets people into, or teams rather, he buckets teams into 3 groups. Pretty surefire, gonna make it. And then the middle group of mid teams who should make it, barring a disaster. And then the teams in the bottom, he's kind of color coded as red, being they've got some work to do. And then there's a whole group of teams that just can't, basically.
Just don't hit, yeah. Yeah, so Austin, in that middle group, I think the most interesting and possibly concerning thing about this is Austin needs to play better, and Austin needs to average more points per game in the remaining matches to get to 45 than they've done so far, which seems like a tall order for a club that is overperforming expectations.
Yeah,
overperforming the underlying numbers, actually.
I may have misread those columns then, because yes, I did. I had read Austin as having to slightly less perform, but actually they have to slightly better perform their remaining. And honestly, we don't have to perform that much better. And so I'm still cautiously optimistic that we will make the playoffs this year. I do think we'll be a lot closer to what you and I had said was kind of our peak, 6, 7, 8, than maybe we had been earlier in the season when we were sitting 2nd, 3rd, 4th. But, there's always time. A third of the season after Leagues Cup.
after Leagues Cup, after the guys come in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's maybe transition out of this and into the preview, unless there's any more news that we didn't talk about that you want to cover.
No, I think we can get into this LAFC preview. We're really lucky to have been joined by Keith Costigan from MLS Apple TV, and he has a bunch of cool insight. We kind of distract ourselves for a little bit in this, and yeah, generally I really enjoyed this one.
We're happy to be joined today by Keith Costigan, Apple TV Plus commentator, joining us from the side of the road somewhere, I think in California probably. How you doing tonight, Keith?
Not the intro I was hoping for. Let's put clarification. I'm driving. I'm not literally on the side of the road. But yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, I don't know whether you guys know. I also, within the Apple TV work, I also work with a USL2 team. I'm the head coach of a USL2 team. So that's my release. Like, commentary is great, but it's like, how can you quantify that you're great at something? Like, because you can tell me, oh man, it sucks Keats on our game, and I can't convince you that I'm good. There's no numbers for it. I coach as well, so I'm on my way to coach my USL2 team tonight, and then tomorrow I'll be in your neck of the woods and getting ready for what I think is going to be a really, really good game.
All right, so let's change the next question I was going to ask. Plug your USL2 team. Who should people be watching?
Ventura County Fusion. We're really good. We're in the Southwest Division. We're top of the division right now. We have 3 players who've already been drafted into MLS who decided to stay in college and play summer. USL2 is basically where the top college players come to play. So I love it. I have a UEFA A coaching license. I've always been a student of the game. For me, anytime you want to work in any kind of field, you should be acquiring as much knowledge as you can in that area of expertise. So I love it. I'm enjoying it. I love being around the players. They make fun of my commentary. They were like, heard you the weekend, blah, blah, blah. So it's good. It's good banter, and it's definitely a good release away from being on the mic.
Oh, that's great. And what style of play does Ventura County try to focus on?
For me, I liken it to, like, I would want to be the team with the ball. I want to be aggressive. I want to create chances. Definitely not possession for possession's sake. Like, my team shouldn't be afraid to lose possession. I want to go forward. I want to create chances. We're a front foot team. If we lose the ball, we try press immediately. I hear that a lot, and then I watch people's teams, and I'm like, wait a minute, your team doesn't look like what you told me. But I promise you that's what we try to do, because I think it's so much easier to attract players if you tell them what you want them to do, not what they can't do. So that's kind of the environment we try to create. Here's what we know you can do. We're going to put you in a position so you can show all the MLS teams that you can do it. And we've had a really good start to the year, and we got to keep working, but it's definitely fun.
Awesome. Jeremiah, we're just going to turn this into a USL2 podcast now, right?
Honestly, Keith, we were talking, you've watched the Austin game for the weekend. So, this might be better than talking about Austin's performance against Colorado if we just my guess, if we could just talk about like craft beer and local politics instead of talking about the game.
Look, I just wanted to, call back to the roots.
I did. Look, going to your game at the weekend, the issues I always have is, when you play teams, you're Austin, we know they're waiting for some key signings to come in Desler and Bukari and this summer, and you hope that's going to turn things around. One thing on that, I've always felt like if you're waiting for a player to come and change the narrative, it generally doesn't work that way. It has to be you're moving in that direction anyway, and then they start to help. So that's one thing. But I look at Colorado as a team that at the start of the season you would have said, no, we're going to be ahead of that. And I look at Colorado and what Chris has done there, and they deserve the points this weekend. I don't think anybody can watch that game and think otherwise. And no shots on goal. It's been a tough. We had that one run for Austin where it looked like, you got into the top 3 or 4. But beyond that, I found you guys a little bit of a tough watch in the final third in terms of, chance creation, key players delivering what you expect of them. I can understand why you guys are so interested in the USL season right now, given that probably it's covering talking about Colorado at the weekend.
Yeah. Additionally, it's covering having to preview our opponent for this coming week. LAFC just finished playing against Orlando at the weekend, and their story of that match is a lot different from the story of our match in Colorado. Jeremiah, you want to give us some details on LAFC 2024?
Yeah, let's walk back through this a little bit, because this is going to be the first time that Austin has played LAFC. So last year, 2023, LAFC MLS Cup runners-up, CCL runners-up, played 53 matches, which is the most matches that any club has ever played. loses half their minutes played during the season, and Atuesta comes back, Hugo Lloris comes in to play goal, and it's almost like nothing's ever changed. So now LAFC is second in the West, first on points per game, plus 11 goal differential. Denny Bouanga, menace, 18 goal contributions so far. Keith, you said
with that really slow start to the season on those 18 goal contributions, right? So like, imagine if he had been firing from the beginning. Oof.
I actually look at LAFC for you guys and see like a great example, because I did them at San Jose where they were dreadful. They lost to San Jose away, and I was like, man, this LAFC team is so far removed from where they were last year. You mentioned the players they lost. I think only 3 of the side that were in MLS Cup from the previous season started that game. So that's a big turnover. You don't get that in other countries. You don't get that in other leagues where, a year and a half away from a Champions League final, you've only got 3 players left. But since then, they've shored up defensively. They're better on set pieces. Sorry to say for you guys, but they've developed a really good way of playing away from home, where they're difficult to break down. They have a little bit more possession than perhaps you're used to seeing as well in years gone by. So this is a team, I would say right now, in my opinion, is the best team in Major League Soccer on form. That's how good they've been, because they're not giving up goals. In Denny Bouanga, they have a match winner. And in Matthias Bogusz, I think they have one of the unsung heroes of this league, because he's not one of the biggest name stars, but he has been outstanding over the course of the last couple of months. And it's going to be a very difficult matchup for you guys to get something against a team that obviously is starting to round into their best form. And by the way, they have Olivier Giroud to come as well this summer. So, the old saying about the rich get richer, there you go. But they're an incredible team. They really are.
Yeah, it's been one goal in their last, going back to the beginning of May. Yeah. They've only given up 1 goal, so this will be a tough defensive team for Austin to come break down. What, in your opinion, Keith, has been kind of the core of that transformation?
I think for me it was like the commitment of the group to defend as a group. Kike Oliveira was playing on the right, Bogusz was playing as the false 9, and Denny Bouanga playing on the left, and their commitment to defend was incredible. So then you're not like, oh well, you can get beyond that, we're at their midfield. They defend so well as a group. There was one goal, actually it might not have been a goal, it was against Minnesota, where the ball went back and one of the Minnesota midfielders had it, and Kike Oliveira was back pressing to win the ball and allow another goal scoring chance for LAFC. And I think when you see that buy-in from a group, you have a good culture. But again, I mean, if I'm Austin, I look at their performance against San Jose away and say, look, we know that they're not unbeatable. You can get at them. And I would use them as perhaps it's unfair because LAFC do have, I think, a further along in their squad creation than Austin, but they are an example of a team who, to start the season, weren't playing well away from home, but they found the tweaks needed to be made to fix it. So, I think it's you could look at it and be nervous and say, look, we're playing a top team. But if you're Austin, this is an incredible opportunity to take down one of the biggest teams in the West and build that confidence that you hope can help you drive into summer when you have some key players going to be coming in as well.
Yeah, you mentioned some of the big names, and I guess probably was it Bogusz, probably the one that's like the most under the radar. Is there anybody else that Austin fans should be looking for or looking at on the LA side that maybe we wouldn't? It's not Denny Bouanga or Timothy Tillman, but it's really like an exciting player to watch that you've seen a lot out of this year.
I like Omar Campos, who plays left back, and he's an attack-minded left back. He's been kind of in and out of the side. They've kind of babied him in since he's arrived from Santos Laguna. I think with LA, you look at some of the players like Oliveira, you look at Tillman, who, international games, who is going to step up in their absence. Funny enough, I look at someone like Kai Kamara, who everybody knows in this league as someone that, very different looking number 9, but can come in is as hungry as ever. Because I think one of the things that LAFC have done well is make sure they balance the squad with some of those young players, with the Atuestas, and getting the Ryan Hollingsheads right, getting those signings right. And Kai, I know he hasn't scored, and people will say, well, but he's a big part of the culture that they're building. You can see that. He gives them like a 9 reference point to kind of get them ready for Olivier Giroud as well. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get minutes in this game. And, he's 1 goal away from tying Landon Donovan's second all time. So I would have him as one to watch going into this one as well.
Yeah, and then it seems to me that Austin tends to play up to the level of competition sometimes. LA Galaxy came into town and Austin put together probably the best performance I've ever seen our team play, right? Notoriously in the past, we've given LAFC a decent run, home and away. Is there something to that mentality that you've pulled out of your years covering the league and talking to Coach Wolff or anything like that you might have insight into?
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I think, if you're a team that is best when the opposition come at you, you're like, we don't want to be the protagonist. We want to be the counter puncher. That can work in your favor when you play the bigger teams because they will come at you and then they leave a little bit more space. The issue can become a little bit more difficult when you're at home to a Portland and you're like, oh man, these guys aren't coming out. We're going to have to gamble a little bit more. And then all of a sudden you take unnecessary risks and lose a game that you're like, how do we play so well against Galaxy and then lose to Portland who haven't had a great season? So I definitely think there's an element of that to it. I think probably the best performances I've seen from Austin have been where they've countered well. Like when a team comes out and tries to open up against them. I watched the Galaxy game where Aubrian obviously has those moments as well. But I do think, going back to Austin in general, I think the likes of Aubrian, the likes of Driussi, the likes of Jassy have just been so painfully inconsistent with, like, you see a glimpse and then the next game it's gone as well. So I think some of it can be on the setup of the opposition, but the players have to take some of the blame too. They have to be able to perform against whatever kind of style they're playing, whether it's Colorado, who are, will press you a little bit more, and, or whether it's, a team like Portland who'll sit back and attack you and you open yourself up a little bit. I think the players have to put a little bit more on themselves to offer that consistency to allow Josh to build something and be better in terms of league standings.
And then just to follow up on that, is there something to as a coach of a team, right? How do you make sure that your players aren't taking these opportunities for granted, right? When you come up against a team that's so far below you in the table, like Portland was, how do you get your guys as prepared as when they're going against these giants that they seem to love to kill?
Yeah, $1 million question. I wish I would be coaching USL had the answer to this one, but I will say for anything in life, competition. If players aren't performing at a consistent level, you have to have competition. You have to make them feel that there's an edge. They have to perform at that level to keep their position. This is going to sound silly, but I'm lucky. In USL, we can sign 30 top college players, and These players are now in competition with each other. You sign 2 or 3 players for a lot of money, you almost feel obliged to play them. Like Rigoni didn't work out. Like he didn't live up to that hype. But it's very difficult to make that investment so far above and beyond other players in the group and then not say we're going to give him a little bit more rope. The reality is when everybody's in the dressing room, you should forget about that. And it doesn't matter anymore because it is the best driver of performance in any walk of life for me is competition. I know, you want to play? You better prove it. It doesn't matter what your, resume says. It doesn't matter what international team you play for. If you didn't play well for 2-3 games, you're not playing. But again, that's a lot easier said than done at the MLS level because you're out balancing the salary cap, trying to make sure that you're building a squad in that way, and you don't always have the other pieces that have the ability to challenge the players that aren't performing at that consistent level. So it's a very difficult job. I think Josh is, when I talk to him, one of the best, most intelligent coaches in terms of rationalizing things and understanding things, and a work ethic to get better. You can just tell that. And he's going to learn from this. And I think one of the main things, he's going to learn about the players from this. And we'll see that in this summer and in the off season, what players are there, what players move on, and how you build moving forward. Because we're still very early with Rodolfo Borrell. He hasn't been here that long, and he hasn't made that many moves in the transfer market. So I think until that happens, I know you guys are probably like, yes, we know we need more moves in the transfer market. But until that happens, it's very difficult to kind of make the steps forward that you want to make.
Yeah, and with currently 8 open roster spots until Bukari and Desler get here, it's hard to find that competition for sure.
Yeah, so what do you think?
I actually think. No, I was just going to say the summer window is a big window for Austin. I really do. I think, Desler and Bukari coming in, they have to know the expectation is on them to perform the minute they arrive, and that should be embraced by those players. It really should. But there's still more work to do. There's still more pieces you need. And Usman Bukari, maybe you have a player that sparks a little bit more out of Rubio, out of Zardes, because he's a more creative force. So maybe they make the other players better too. That's the idea, but you have to keep making those steps forward, because we've seen other teams do it as well. There's a lot of competition in the West. It's crowded. You can be up in the top 5 1 minute and right at the bottom within 2-3 weeks. You have to keep making moves. You have to keep looking to get better, even when you think things are moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I was going to ask about how has, not to be a West Coast conspiracy theorist, but how has LAFC has consistently done that, right, year over year? And you're just talking about a guy like Kai Kamara, basically, is on the end, like an end of the bench guy. So what is it about the LAFC way that has caused them to be so successful, over the long term with a ton of turnover?
Yeah, I think obviously they've been bold in terms of their decisions. You have to be aggressive. I think you look at when they first came in the league, to make a statement signing like Carlos Vela, Brian Rodriguez came in and really didn't do that well, but you moved on from him quickly. You sold that to Westa, but they always seem to have that next move in front of them. And that I look at Sporting KC. I've done Sporting KC the last few weeks, and they feel like a team that's got stale. They haven't been thinking one step ahead. I feel like LAFC always are thinking one step ahead. They have, the next player coming in, Olivier Giroud, and then you'll see next year they'll already have something else in place. So I definitely think it's that forward planning. Austin's still a relatively young team. They've made moves. They bring in Rodolfo. I would say the most important thing on that is with Rodolfo, for him to set everything up in place and then start the process of making those moves and being aggressive. But you don't want to come in and start going, we're going to sign this guy, and then all of a sudden realize, no, they're not the level that we wanted. They're not. I think he's had enough time now to judge everything that's there. Now I think you need to see that process. But for LAFC, the turnover, you lose Chiqui Palacios, who is one of the best fullbacks in the league, but you're already a step ahead on that. You bring in Omar Campos, so Jose Cifuentes, they lose Cifuentes, but Tillman comes in, and Tillman's had an outstanding season as well. They're always a step ahead in terms of, let's make sure we're ready to replace what we lose. That for me is the key to consistent performance at this level. And, you could argue that they've done it better than anybody over the last couple of years.
You've touched on this. Before we let you go, if I'm an Austin fan, what is my silver lining and what to look forward to over the game on Wednesday night?
I think the weather's supposed to be a little bit cooler now, and there's
it is. Yeah.
Which makes it difficult to pack, by the way. I know it's hot now, it's going to rain. I think the silver lining is what you mentioned earlier. The fact that LA Galaxy, when they came in, you saw the Austin that we know that they can be. I'd imagine the crowd is going to be. LA's one of those teams. I live in LA. I get it. Everywhere LA goes, people are just like, we hate LA. You're Hollywood. They think everybody owns a mansion in the Hollywood Hills, you know? They think Jack Nicholson and all of us get together every day and have lunch together. So everybody hates LA. So you have that atmosphere. And I think in that performance against LA Galaxy, you've shown who you can be. So that would be the silver lining for me. It's like, I don't look at this game as like, oh, LAFC are going to win. I don't look at it that way. They're favorites to win. They should be, given their form. But I think if they come forward, Austin FC have the capabilities of hurting them in counter situations and getting a result. So if I'm an Austin fan, I want to play the best teams. And for me right now, you hear about this unbeaten run. You like when the team is leaving and saying that was their first loss in. There's no better saying when you face one of those teams. So I'd be excited if I was an Austin fan in that regard.
That's a lot better than my silver lining, which is that after LAFC, there's only 5 games until Bukari and Desler get here. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Keith. And we look forward to hearing you on the call.
No worries, guys. I appreciate you guys having me today. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot. Have a great night. All right. We'd like to thank Keith for joining us. I think we learned more about USL too than we expected to out of that interview. It was super fun. I did like you tried to trying to bait him into like criticizing Josh Wolff. That was my favorite question in the interview.
I think I just wanted to give him an opportunity to express how Keith might have done something instead, because here's the deal. As a lifelong supporter of Ventura County Fusion, I know that Keith Costigan has what it takes to take my club to the next level.
I love it. Well, let's talk about
honestly,
Minnesota United.
This was awesome. He was great. Yeah. He was a great interview. I'm glad he got to practice safe and really appreciate the time that he took talking to us.
He did. Yeah.
We should call Adrian Heath for this Minnesota United preview. Speaking of coaches.
Find him. He's probably has a lot of strong opinions on Minnesota United this year. I think This is Saturday's match. This is another one on the road. So Austin, going to definitely be tested here. Minnesota United, currently 4th in the West. I kind of forgot about this, but defeated Austin 2-1 the season opener was against Minnesota United. The goals from Robin Lode and Alejandro Braun. Again, because I went back. Usually when we play these teams, I go back and read like the MLS previews, and they're like, oh man, Reynoso is gonna like crush it again for Minnesota. So like they're doing this all without Reynoso. Again, sitting 4th. I guess the best thing that Austin might have going for it in this one is while Austin has 2 players out on international duty, Minnesota is going to be missing Dane St. Clair, Tani, was it Olusewi?
Olusewi, yeah.
Olusewi, who's their leading scorer. They will be playing for Canada. Alejandro Braun, who did Costa Rica, who did score in against the Austin match, and Carlos Harvey for Panama. So they'll be missing 4 starters due to Copa America performances. I don't know. What do you think that matters?
I think Tani's so good. The thing that frustrates me about Minnesota, right, is they find a player like Tani, they find a player like Bongi, they find these hidden gems like Robin Lod, right, and they just do all these things that are so good, and you're like, how do you do that? How do you find players that overperform their contracts? Please share your secrets. I don't know. Here's what I know about this match, Jeremiah. Barring any kidney stone emergencies, Steph and I will be in Minnesota going to this one as well. So fingers crossed that we will actually get to see the team play away. And I know for a fact that the vibes will be immaculate because the Minnesota away trip is the best, I think, the best away trip you can go on other than Colorado. I was going to ask about that. Y'all have done it. Y'all have done that before? We've done Minnesota once, and it was so good. We were like, do we just always do this one now? The supporters groups out there are wonderful. They've got this philosophy called drink 90 drink, where before the game you drink, for 90 minutes you're enemies, and then immediately after the game you drink again, like together. And it's this really fun, welcoming space. And it reminds me a lot of what the supporters groups in Colorado have done for our traveling fans. It reminds me a lot of what I've heard some of the supporters groups in San Jose have done for our fans. So yeah, I just think generally those are some cool places. And so win, lose, or draw, probably lose or draw. I am very excited for this Minnesota trip.
Yeah, they're really cool people. I went to, I don't remember who they played, but I went to a game in 2019. Went to the Black Heart. Took the train.
Yep.
Went to the Black Heart. Yeah, hung out, had a great time. Snuck in the Wonderwall at the end of the match. Sang with them because I do know that they won. So yeah, it should be a good time. I believe this to be true, but like Timu Pukki is also injured, so that's also one less player that Austin's going to have to worry about. He picked up a knee injury a few days ago and is expected to be out for 3 weeks. So I feel like there's many times when we've talked about how like the deficiency of the opponent is the thing that's going to like give Austin best chance for victory, and almost always been disappointed by that. But
yeah,
but the opportunity is there.
I will say that knowing Pukki is injured and Tani is away, now we're at like third string strikers. Like now I'm a little bit higher in my hopes, but I mean, still, this team, they're sitting above us for a reason, and they've really shown the league that they didn't need Reynoso, and maybe firing Adrian Heath was a good idea.
So I think the best we can hope for is a cynical 1-1 draw on the road where the handballs go the right way to go all the way back to Colorado.
I don't know, man. I'm hoping for a classic MLS smash and grab. You know, give me that late on CJ header, because that's what we're hoping for nowadays on the road. And who knows? Magic could happen.
All right, you ready to close it out?
God, I can't wait. The other plus side to this Minnesota game is after that, it will only be 4 matches until Bukari and Desler can play for us. So no matter what happens, we're moving the needle, Jeremiah. We are moving
getting closer
the needle
all the time. I love it. All right, I want to do the closing because I was like, Landon never lets me do the closing. We'll see how this goes.
Yeah, I couldn't be happier to let you do the closing.
All right, I'd like to remind you to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. If you want to continue the soccer conversation, check us out. I'm Jay Bentley _ATX everywhere. Moon Tower Soccer basically everywhere. Landon's LVRO 87. Mike, you are same user everywhere too.
Skeleton everywhere on the internet.
Are you on the TikToks?
I have a TikTok. I am not a creator on the TikTok.
You know, we just got into that, and we posted a few videos, and there's a lot of comment. We get a lot of more comments on TikTok than basically anywhere else. So,
I mean, you guys are popular. It makes sense.
We haven't perfected our dance yet, but maybe we'll be there. Sign up for the Patreon. We've got new stuff. We mentioned sign up for Phil's Substack. You can read the depressing history of Austin FC strikers as he published just tonight. Thanks so much for listening. Next week, Landon will be back with a review of 2 matches, previewing Sporting KC, and we'll cover some Austin FC news. Until then, I'm Jeremiah Bentley.
And I'm Mike Cragnola.
We'll catch you next time.
When no one is around.
Thank for nothing, you never.
La gente.
Oh my God.
Do you want to do it? Do you want to say the magic words?
Oh, yeah, I would be happy to. I think.
Or are you nervous?
No, I will. I'll do it. I got it. I mean, I'm nervous, but I got it. It's such a hard set of words.